Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of summer orientation. I hope that everyone was able to attend some sessions yesterday and will continue to attend the sessions throughout the week. We're trying to provide a lot of information and a lot of ability for Q&A and also to get to know your classmates a little bit. This morning, like I had mentioned earlier, this is for international and exchange students. Obviously, all students are welcome, but this is going to be very specific to the needs of those students as they're coming to the Beloit campus for the first time. We do have some orientation leaders that are in the background that'll be putting some things in the chat and some contact information as we need it. Without further ado, I am going to hand you over to Shannon Jolly, who's going to introduce herself and then kind of just take the presentation from there. If you have questions, and we hope that you have questions because that's what we're here for, to answer those for you, please use the Q&A box and we will work through those questions throughout the presentation. So if you have them already, you can start putting them in whenever, okay? All right, Shannon, off to you.
All right, thanks, Angie. Good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Wherever you are, I'm sure we've got quite a range of time zones represented on this call. As Andrew said, my name is Shannon Jolly, and I am so happy to welcome you to this Q&A session for incoming international degree and international exchange students. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know each of you over the next few weeks before you arrive and over the course of the time that you're at Beloit. In addition to myself, I've also got James Miranda on the call. James, do you want to give a quick shout out? And
yeah, absolutely. Hello all. As you are probably aware, I'm the international admissions representative for Beloit College. So I've worked very closely with many of you, including our exchange students. Our formal working time together is, of course, drawing to a close now that orientation is starting. But I will still be on campus. I will still be a resource for you to use at all times. And of course, I'm very excited to see each and every one of you arriving at Beloit and then seeing what's going to come for each of you as we move forward.
great, thanks, James. Andrew, I'm having a small tech problem. I have completely lost the Zoom window. Am I still sharing my screen? Oh, now I have no sound. Oh, no, you're muted.
You are sharing your screen, but not in the way that you would want to. Your presentation isn't fully on it.
That's fine. I think I'm going to disconnect again here.
Okay.
I apologize, everyone. I had this all set up, and of course, because we're now live and recording, computers are acting funny. So if I start doing something strange, well, you know what? You're going to work with me for the next semester to 4 years, so I will do strange things. So I'm going to try one more time to share the screen. As we said, this is primarily, excuse me, a Q&A session. So I want to give you lots of time to ask your questions and find out the information that you want to find out. But I do want to spend a little while going through some information about my office, International Student Services, and some of the big areas that I know a lot of people have questions about right now. So gonna give the screen sharing one more time, or one more try, otherwise we are going to possibly give up. All right. Am I screen sharing?
Yes, you are.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So, as you know, and have probably heard from James and from everybody else you've talked to here since you got started in the admission process, international students are a really important part of the Beloit College community. And my office, International Student Services, is here to serve you and support you. International students are in a broad sense, anyone who identifies as an international student is an international student. And we are, in my office, happy to provide support to you in any way that you can. Ask for it any way that we can. We know that coming to school in a new country, new culture, farther away from home and family can be a very challenging thing to do. And although you will be accessing and engaging with the whole campus and the whole campus community, we also want you to have a point of contact to help you address some of the things that might be unique based on your experiences coming from outside the US. If you are if you had gone too far, do have F1 or J1 status, or will have that, then you will be required to work with my office, at least to a certain extent, because my office serves as the primary site for working with the connection between students and the government, helping you make sure that you can maintain your status and that the school is doing the things that it needs to do for compliance. So F&J advising is an area that you will definitely be interacting with me on, but hopefully not the only thing. In addition, my office provides support in collaboration with other offices to ease cross-cultural transitions, education to help make the various transitions both back and forth. So not just when you're first arriving to campus, but also as you're making those connections between what you're learning and experiencing here on campus and what you may experience if and when you return home or in a third country. So that's an important piece. We firmly believe at Beloit that community and networks are a critical part of your experience and your success. And so from day one, we'll be working with you in my office to help you build the support networks you need, both as a Beloit student pursuing a particular degree program, as well as making sure that you have the networks that you need to be successful as an international student. And then again, in collaboration, particularly with offices like Angie's and school, student organizations, other departments, we want to make sure that students' identities are honored. So celebrating important holidays, festivals, making sure that students are able to live your cultural identities, your values within the Beloit community. So there's lots of different ways that we can approach that individually and campus-wide. So those are some of the big things that International Student Services does. As we get started here in the next few weeks, the primary focus from my office with you is going to be helping you get ready to get to campus, and then helping you with the initial transition onto campus. In the next couple of weeks, I can't give you an exact date, but I would think by the end of next week at the latest, you will have access to some more extensive pre-arrival resources through our International Student Orientation Moodle page. I don't know if anybody here has heard about Moodle yet. That's our course management software. You're going to use it a lot in your different classes, but we'll also be using it during orientation. So you'll get a notification that you've been given access to that Moodle site sometime in the next couple of weeks. I'm in the process of editing it right now. But as soon as you have access, you're going to see some more resources about your F1 and J1 status, a more extensive guide about tips for packing, what to expect while traveling internationally. We have information on what happens after you get to the US, getting from the airport to campus, and some materials that will help you get ready as you start getting ready for International Student Orientation. So those will all be coming after this conversation, after summer orientation is over. But I do want to highlight a few things briefly in these areas that you probably want to be thinking about. First thing, if you are in F1 or applying for F1 or J1 status, just a reminder of the steps that you need to undertake to get here. Hopefully most of you are through the first few steps. You've got your I-20 or DS 2019 if you have J1 status. You've paid your CVIS fee, completed your DS 160, and scheduled your visa interview. From there, I know there's a wide range of points that you're at. Some of you have gone through the interview, others are still waiting, and so forth. After you receive the consulate decision, you're going to receive one of two decisions after you apply for your visa. You're either going to be notified that your visa application has been approved, and that's your signal that you can move forward. You can schedule your flight, you can start packing, you can communicate with us about your arrival plans. Sometimes it happens that you are told that your visa is not yet approved, whether that is a temporary thing because they need additional information, or if they have concerns about something in your application. If that happens for any reason, please get in touch right away with either James or myself so that we can talk to you about what information you've been given. Make sure that you hang on to any papers they give you at the consulate. They'll usually give you some kind of update letter with next steps and so forth. But make sure that you follow up with us right away so that we can talk with you about what that means and what's realistic as far as next steps. As you move into packing, I know lots of people have questions about packing, and it's hard. There's a link down here. The link has been giving me trouble this morning, so I'm not going to open it. But hopefully, maybe you've noticed on the Residential Life website, there's a great page with all kinds of tips about what to bring and what you might want to have for your room. And there's a whole lot of stuff that you're not going to be able to fit in a suitcase. And I don't want you to feel like you have to try to pack lots of extra or unusual things. So one of the things that I recommend to students when we're talking about packing is to prioritize into a couple of different categories. Think about the things that you absolutely have to have with you. Those are your take on the plane things. So your documents that you need to enter the US, any electronics that you're bringing with you. If you're bringing electronics, make sure that you have the right chargers or adapters to be able to plug something into a US outlet. We'll have some pictures and other resources on the Moodle site about that. But there's nothing worse than getting here with everything together and then realizing that you can't actually plug your charging block in. Make sure you have a change of clothing with you, or two, just in case your luggage gets delayed. Medications, anything like that that you might want to, or that you need to have right away. And snacks. Make sure that you bring some snacks, not like perishable things, but something that you can eat in the airport, on the plane, and also after you arrive. If you've ever gone through jet lag, you know that you wake up at weird times of the day, you're hungry at strange times of the day. So you want to be confident that you've got something with you that you're going to want to eat if you're hungry at a time when other people are sleeping or food service isn't open and so forth.
A quick thing
Beyond the take on the, oh, sorry, go ahead,
on
James.
bringing snacks into the country is
Uh-huh.
just, if you are going to bring snacks from home, you're going to want it to be pre-packaged, and you're going to
Yes.
want to have a list of ingredients on it. You'll be fine in the airports when you're snacking it, but once you get through US immigration, they're going to ask you to declare any food items that you've brought.
Right.
And so pre-packaged listed ingredients is typically going to be fine. But if you're trying to bring in a bag of fruit, or if there is like a particularly, like maybe you have a dish that has animal protein in it, and it's just kind of loose, you could run into some restrictions due to, of course, concerns over like agricultural exchange. If there's, something that the food product in your home country is accustomed to that the US food ecosystem is not, then it can cause changes. So that's one thing that they're fairly strict about. So just make sure if you are bringing snacks, prepackaged list of ingredients. If it's something that you're like, maybe it's a snack that your mom likes. My mother-in-law always sends us with like homemade barfi when we're coming from abroad. And so we write the ingredients down on like a Ziploc bag, just in case when we're going through immigration. So that's just one quick note on snacks that I want to make sure everyone knows.
Yeah. Thanks, James. That's really helpful. There's a great resource from U.S. Customs and Border Patrol called Don't Pack a Pest. And we'll have a link to that on the Moodle site as well. It gives you a guide of some of the things that are problematic agricultural items and ingredients to bring in. Well, I'm a chronic clicker. For the next 48 hours, then that's the next step that you should prioritize as far as packing. The things that you're going to want in the first day or two. Obviously, you're going to want to pack more than that in your suitcase, but those are going to be the most important things. And one of the things I really recommend is to have some comfortable clothes with you. We're going to talk about orientation in a minute, but you're going to be running around a lot, going around campus. It's going to be hot outside, and a lot of the buildings are going to be really cold inside because that seems to be how we do heating and cooling in this part of the country. So you may want something long sleeved for inside, but you're definitely not going to want it outside. So thinking about things like that, and then something to sleep on. But one of the things, and again, this will be a resource that you'll be getting from me very, very soon, is that you do have the option to purchase things online and have them shipped ahead to the school. So we have an arrangement with the mail center. And so if you have something that you order and you have shipped ahead, there's a way that you can notify the mail center that that's coming and let me know. And we can actually pick those packages up on your behalf so that they're available to you at the point when you check in on arrival day. So if you wanted to order things for your bed or room or something that you don't want to pack, but you want to have available right when you move in, that would be an option as well. And so we have some instructions on how to do that. I would say if you want things here by arrival day, definitely order at least a week or two in advance. And then just know that there are going to be lots of opportunities to go shopping. I don't want to make you spend all your money right when you arrive, but if it's easier to go shopping than to pack something, or if you're trying to wait to purchase something the day after you arrive, August 17th, we have a shopping trip planned to Walmart, which is our discount department store, has a little bit of everything here in town. There will be shopping trips during new student days. There's a pharmacy convenience store within walking distance of campus that you can go to get sort of emergency items and so forth. So you aren't going to be stuck in an island not able to get anything if you aren't able to pack it. So that can sometimes help as well. Okay, so you've got your stuff, you're packing, you're thinking about what to bring. Let's talk briefly about arrival day. As you know, arrival day is August 16th. That is Friday the 16th, and exactly 1 month from today. So the countdown has definitely begun. We recommend that people arrive on the 16th itself because that is the day when we are all set up to welcome you and to help you get settled on campus. And so that's going to be the most comfortable day to arrive. There will be lots of orientation leaders, staff, others around to help you get going and get settled here on campus. If you are arriving from O'Hare or you're coming early and staying in Chicago, there is a regional bus sponsored through Coach USA that we recommend taking. It goes to South Beloit, Illinois, and the stop is only about a 5 to 10 minute drive from campus. On arrival day, we will have people available to come pick you up from those bus drop-offs. We only can guarantee that piece on arrival day, which is another reason we recommend arriving that day. You will be receiving, this is starting to sound like I'm stuck on repeat here, but you will be receiving step-by-step instructions from my office on how to find the bus at the airport and downtown, how to buy a ticket, and what to do once you're on the bus. I know some of you are arriving on your own, with family or friends, so you will also receive instructions on how to find the check-in site or arrival day for International Student Orientation. If you are arriving on your own or otherwise have control of your schedule, We strongly recommend arriving on campus before 4 p.m. on the 16th, just because that gives you the most time to start to meet other people, to get moved in before you're too tired, to be able to see campus in daylight, all of those things. So keep that in mind as well. Finally, I just wanted to mention briefly, I've talked a little bit, we have International Student Orientation then that starts right after arrival. Technically, arrival day is part of the orientation, but that's all that happens that day. And International Student Orientation is different from what you're doing now in summer orientation, and it's different from what you will do afterwards in new student days. This is specifically for you as international students, and it's time when you can address practical matters like getting settled in, getting the things that you weren't able to pack, starting to get familiar with campus. Most of you have not probably visited campus yet, so this is your chance to start to see what the Beloit College campus and surrounding community look like. We want to start introducing some of the different cultures that you're going to be experiencing, U.S. culture in general, but also the cultures that make up the Beloit community, and getting adjusted to that. Like I said before, we're going to be starting from day one, helping you develop some of your first support networks, so that you have people who you can go to for different things, both academic and social. And even though we certainly want you to be meeting students from all over the world, from all over the US, having that chance during International Student Orientation to meet some of your peers who are going through something similar to you is a really great chance. These are the people who are going to get it when you're really homesick, or you just don't understand why people from Wisconsin or Illinois do something a certain way. That's going to be your support network. And less fun, but equally important, is that we will need to spend some time going over some of the legal requirements, your immigration stuff, as well as your rights and responsibilities living here in the US. So those are the goals of International Student Orientation. A full schedule will be posted closer to the time. But that's kind of just the quick overview of what to expect here in the next few weeks. I talked fast and dumped a whole lot of information on you really quickly. But this is the point when we're going to open it up for questions. And you can put your questions in the Q&A, as Angie said, and James and I, or the OLs, are all here to answer those as they come up.
Okay, Shannon, before we'll give everybody a minute to think of their questions and start putting them in the Q&A. Yesterday we did a life on campus, like living on campus kind of session, and there were some international questions that did come up. And one of them was talking about the adjustment culturally to having a domestic roommate, and tips and tricks or advice for kind of how to that first interaction.
Okay, that is a great question. I might turn to our OLs a little bit who might have experience with this. My biggest suggestion probably is, if you've got the contact information for the person that you're going to be rooming with, be in touch before you get here. Have some communication, whether it's email or social media or whatever it might be, so that you can start to get a sense of what they will be like, what their expectations are. The other big thing that I hear from students and Res Life staff, for everyone getting used to living with a roommate, is to communicate. I know that for some folks, myself included, directness is not a real comfortable thing. So you don't necessarily want to say point blank what you want or need, or what your preferences are. But the more that you and your roommate can communicate about those things up front, even things that seem really obvious. I think that's where a lot of roommate challenges happen, is that we assume that people do the same things that we do the same way, and that there's no need to communicate about it because of course everyone does it the same way. until you discover that they don't. And so having really clear communication, even communicating about how you want to communicate, things like that are going to be important pieces.
Absolutely.
I don't know. OLs, do you have anything you want to add with that? Since you actually live with people?
I have never actually lived with a roommate in my 4 years, so I don't know if I would be too helpful, but I really do agree that communication is probably one of the biggest factors. And also like talking to your RA kind of would also be kind of beneficial as well if problems do arise.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo what Sophia said. Use your resources. Shannon, James, your RAs, everyone you're meeting at summer orientation, all the people that you're going to meet this week are on campus to help you, assist you, and mentor you in any way they can. So please use your resources on campus. All right, we have a question from one of our students. Can you help me connect to students from my country so we can book the same flights?
Oh, new students. James, do you want to take that initially, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise,
So,
I know my answer.
yeah, what I would say is we can't directly like give out contact information for other students. So, for instance, we can't just be like, all right, you're from Mexico. Here's all the Mexican students we have on campus. What I will say is that Beloit typically has created a Facebook group for incoming students that you should have been invited to join or that you will be invited to join very shortly. That is going to be a great place to meet your fellow incoming students. When I was a student at Beloit, that was the resource that we used. And I know that Facebook is kind of like the old man's game by now, but it still has some uses. So that is what I would say is going to be your best bet for connecting with students from the same country and trying to coordinate your travel with them. Just because we can't just release student information, even if it's just to a classmate of theirs, due to privacy regulations.
I would add too that once it's set up, there will be some chat rooms, chat spaces, discussion boards available on the Moodle page as well. So make use of that when it's available, because you could start a thread for people coming from a particular region or people who want to voluntarily share their flight information with each other and things like that. So there's no prohibition with you sharing information. It's just that we can't share other people's information.
Okay, so if anyone has questions, please don't be shy, put them in the Q&A. Oh, do we need to bring sheets and towels?
Oh, excellent question. Yes, maybe. You will need sheets and towels. And that website that I referenced has the sizing of the sheets and so forth. We don't provide those. That, like I said earlier, that could be a good thing to have shipped ahead if you are planning, especially if you're planning on buying new sheets and towels to come with you anyway. That might be a good thing to purchase and have shipped to you. Exchange students, if this might be a question from an exchange student, we do have a slightly different process for you. And so please be in touch because there is a linen exchange available specifically for the students who are coming on short-term exchange. So,
all right, next question. What should we do if we arrive earlier than August 16th?
okay. So if you arrive to the US, and you can arrive to the US anytime up to 30 days before. So now, pretty much. Tomorrow, maybe. I can't count. Probably tomorrow. If you are arriving earlier than the 16th, one option is to use that time to do some sightseeing, hang out in Chicago, and so forth. If that's the kind of thing you're interested in doing, especially if you're traveling with other people, we can give you some suggestions on places people have stayed and so forth. If you're planning to come to Beloit, Please be in touch with me and with Residential Life about your plans, because you would need to request permission to move in early. We would also provide you with information on getting to campus from the bus stop on your own, because we don't have transportation except on the 16th. The thing to be aware of about moving to campus before the 16th, if that's necessary for you, is that it's going to be very quiet. We don't have activities planned. It's kind of a hard way to transition into campus life. And so that's one of the reasons we don't recommend it, just because we don't want you to feel, lonely or bored or abandoned during that time. But we also know that flights don't always accommodate our exact goals. So if you think you need to arrive before the 16th, please be in touch with me and with Residential Life, and we can talk about the best options.
Okay. Our next question is, my J1 visa expires on December 12th. Does that mean that December 12th is the latest date I can stay in the US?
Oh, one of my favorite questions. So you're going to hear me say this a lot. The visa in your passport, and this is true for F1 students as well, is only an entry document. So your visa needs to be unexpired at the time that you enter the US, but can expire after that. So that some of you come from countries where the US has agreements or doesn't have agreements with your home country, and so the visa periods are very short. So what's in your passport does not indicate how long you can be in the US. What determines that is for J1 students, your DS 2019, and for F1 students, your I-20. For J1 students, your DS 2019 probably also expires the end date is probably around the 12th of December if you're coming for just one semester, but you are able to stay in the US for up to 30 days after that date. So you have a little time to get moved out if you wanted to do some traveling or other things. So you can legally stay in the US for 30 days if you are a J1 student. On a side note, although F1 students, you're going to be here longer and we're not talking so much about departure, you can stay 60 days after.
Okay. All right, the next question is, what is the earliest we can arrive on the 16th time-wise?
Time-wise, I mean, we will accommodate anything. I would say probably 8 or 8:30 a.m. would be the best time to aim for, just because then people will be here and set up. If you have a strange situation where you need to arrive at like 3 a.m. or something, let's talk. But otherwise, anytime after 8 a.m., we'll be ready for you.
Fabulous. The next question, should we be concerned about crime in and around Beloit? As a first-time international student, what advice would you give? What do they need to know?
Okay. So I would say, generally speaking, if you are using kind of basic, practical, let's go with city survival skills, you're going to be fine. You're going to be safe on campus. You want to be practical. Don't leave all of your things unattended in the middle of campus. Lock your doors, things like that. But campus is generally very safe. We have a great campus security team that is very personable as well as good at their job, so they help to keep you safe. The Beloit community, particularly just right around campus, again, is fairly safe. You just want to be doing kind of the same things you probably do in a lot of places. Trying to avoid walking alone at night by yourself, which would be alone. Making sure that you are aware of your surroundings, where you're going, what neighborhoods you're going into and what the situation is in the neighborhoods. Beloit is not crime-free, but it is also not, I wouldn't say much more dangerous or any more dangerous than most college communities. So James, you probably get that question a lot and have a different perspective on Beloit than I do. So what are your thoughts on safety?
Yeah, absolutely. So Beloit is very safe. Crime, the only thing that I can think of that I was ever affected with during my time at Beloit crime-wise is I left my car untended and unlocked, and someone took coin out of like a cup for change that I had. Like you are like if you follow the, as Shannon said, basic survival skills that you most likely are using in your hometown anyways, you are not going to find yourself running into any problems with like being a victim of a violent crime, being a victim of a random crime, anything like that. Beloit is very close to downtown. That is most likely where you would find yourself if you were off campus, in like within walking distance. The entire pathway between Beloit and downtown is lit. But as Shannon mentioned, just make sure you're, like not walking alone at night. Of course, make sure that you're going to be in a safe surroundings. If you are over the age of 21 and are allowed to consume alcohol, of course, make sure that you're doing it in a safe setting, just so that you're not putting yourself at risk. It's all going to be about like mitigating risk as you normally would operate in your own hometown. So not running into those difficulties here at Beloit as well. But you're not going to expect to find a lot of like you're not going to find yourself randomly having things stolen from you or randomly put into a dangerous situation as long as you follow, like basic instinct.
I would say, just to add, one of the things that can be challenging as a new student, as a new international student, is that at least initially, your cues. So what signals to you as danger or an unsafe situation, that can be a little bit out of balance because, there are different ways that people express themselves or interact with each other. And so that's going to be a case where, again, not spending tons of time on your own initially until you have a better sense and feel like you can read people a little bit better. Same with talking to strangers and so forth. Be patient as you're trying to learn the regional social cues.
Absolutely. Okay. So we're getting lots of questions. The
Oh,
American
good.
Embassy in my country has still not given me an interview date. What should I do?
I can say a couple
Do you
of
want to? I
tips.
mean, I know
Yeah.
the standard
So,
answer, but you probably.
Yeah, a couple of different options. So the first one is you can look for a third country interview. Like for instance, let's say your country has a visa agreement that allows you to travel quickly without needing a visa appointment. One that I tend to refer to is Turkey and Albania. They have a cross visa agreement where if you're Turkish, you can go to Albania. If you're Albanian, you can go to Turkey. Albania typically has like slower or smaller visa wait times than Turkey. So sometimes students will go to that third country to conduct their interview. So that is an option that you could look into. The caveat is the like your visa success rates are lower in third country, just because there's concern about establishing ties to your home country if you have to go to another country to interview. So that's one. Another recommendation, first recommendation is to request an emergency visa interview. It's built into the programming, and what that is essentially your program of study is going to start within the next, I can't remember if it's 90 or 60 days. Either way, we're
I think
well
it's 60.
Yeah, 60 days. So we're well within it. So if you request an emergency visa interview because of your program start date, that'll give you hopefully they'll give you an accelerated timeline, so that you don't have to wait so long for your visa interview. And we can provide letters of support for an emergency visa interview. There's no guarantee that they're going to like necessarily respect that letter that we give you. But if you need one and you're waiting on your visa interview, let us know and we can send you over a letter, that letter.
One thing I would add that I have heard from consular officials, I think this is true at most consulates, in order to enter into the emergency appointment or expedite appointment process, you have to have an appointment date. So even if the earliest appointment is sometime in 2025, book that appointment, get into the system, because most of the consulates won't review your request for an expedited appointment until they know that you're in the system. So even if it feels ridiculous to request whatever the first available appointment date is, take it and get on their records.
Thank you. Will there be help regarding making bank accounts?
Yes and no. So we do have some information resources that we can provide you about bank accounts, about the local banks, and kind of common documents to have with you. The banks that most students open their accounts with are all within walking distance from the campus. So typically what we do is we give suggestions on good times during orientation, during new student days, to go and check the banks and so forth. If there's ever questions about status or eligibility for the account, that's where my office can come in and provide support. Orientation leaders and continuing returning international students are great resources for that as well, because they can share. We can't, as a school, we can't recommend and say, oh, everybody should bank at this bank, but we can give you the basic information. Angie, are there any banks coming for new student days?
A little inside plug, yes. New student days. On August 21st, there will be a resource fair in the Powerhouse, which you will definitely get acclimated to, and we'll get all that information about where the Powerhouse is and how to and where to find these resources. But there'll be a resource fair at that time in that first day of new student days, and there will be bank options there. So you'll be able to talk to some representatives as well.
Yeah. Some things to know: you do not, despite what some people think, you do not have to have a US Social Security number to open a bank account. So you can do it right away. There are not any, like the really big US banks that you might have heard of or your home banks might be connected with, don't have physical locations in Beloit. The largest bank that we have, or at least the widest spread, would be BMO Harris. And that's still pretty regional. But with online banking and everything else, I don't know how important an in-person bank is at this point. So that can be up to you.
Okay, so we have a few more minutes, and we have quite a few tech questions. So we to get through most of them, hopefully we're gonna have to go a little quickly.
Okay.
And also know that you can, if we don't finish your questions, you can always email me at orientation@beloit.edu and I can connect you. You can email Shannon directly. I'm sure you can email James directly. So just know that we have about 6 or 7 more minutes that we're going to finish up as many questions as we can, but your questions are super important. So do not feel like because we didn't get to them, they weren't important to us. We definitely want to help you and answer whatever we can after the session as well. Okay, textbooks. Shannon, how do they buy textbooks?
I'm actually going to answer this one in the through the chat, just so that we can kind of, just because this one's a quick
I love
one.
it. Okay.
All right.
We're going to move on to my visa expire date is exactly 2 years from now, and my studies will be continuing. Will I have to conduct another visa interview?
So, like I said earlier, you're okay to be in the US with an expired visa. If you depart the US after your visa expires, then you would need a new F1 or visa to re-enter the US. Currently, many countries will allow you to do that without a second interview, just by mail or drop-off process. I never want to promise that 2 years from now it's going to be the same process, but you would need another visa at some point in order to be able to re-enter the US. But that doesn't have to be, that can be on your schedule, because you only need it if you leave and come back in.
Okay, here's a really important one. In case of an emergency, health or circumstance, who can we contact?
So if this is an emergency and you're already here, one of the things you'll be doing when you sign in, or when you are, excuse me, doing all of your paperwork here for campus, is providing a list of emergency contacts that you want us to be able to contact on your behalf. We also have a 24-hour security line that you can call either from on campus or off campus if there's an issue. That, you know, within the first couple of weeks, you're probably going to get that number memorized. And security is in a position where they can contact other people if they need to be involved. Before you come, again, campus security is an option. While you're traveling, you're going to get a list of some contacts, but you are always welcome to contact my office as well. So we'll make sure that you have those contacts.
Okay, here's a couple questions that I can answer for you.
Yay!
How accessible is Uber in Beloit? Uber is becoming more and more accessible. Every year it feels like we have more and more Uber drivers available. It is not something that you should count on in an emergency, because we are still not a huge city. So we don't always have around the clock Uber drivers available, but I can tell you that students are using Uber a lot more on campus. So I think that it will continue to grow in availability. The next one is student cultural organizations at Beloit College. We have a lot of organizations at Beloit College, both cultural and specific for interests. I'm going to have the orientation leaders put in the chat the link to the website for student organizations and clubs, and you can check that out. There's lots of opportunities on campus. Do we organize trips to big cities like Chicago and Milwaukee? We do. Last year we took a trip to Chicago. We also sometimes go to Madison just to hang out and kind of check out the Madison area. We have went to Milwaukee and Great America. So there are trips that will allow you from the college programming aspect to get off campus and kind of check out the surrounding area. Okay, I'm tapping out. Here we go. I'll be traveling to the US with a foreign travel card, a prepaid FTC card tethered to a native bank. Should that be enough?
All right, this one sounds like a pretty specific situation. Please send me an email and we'll look into that because I'm not positive. So I think Angie put that in, or somebody put that in the chat or a few minutes ago, Jolly SL at Beloit.
Yeah. So
James?
just a quick thing, oftentimes FTCs have a limit on how long they'll be valid for. And it can be very difficult to, you know, like, so even if it's tied to a native bank, eventually they're just going to expire when you're abroad for a certain time. And there's no guarantee that they cover foreign transactions. So while it might be good for your introductory period, we highly recommend creating a more in Beloit local US based plan moving forward. So still reach out to Shannon for some more details, but that is my 2 cents on the issue.
Thank you. And that would line up with what I probably would have started the email with. So
Okay, and here is the last question that we are going to have time for. James is kind of touching on it, but I'm traveling to Chicago over the weekend. Is there transportation that is affordable and safe to be able to take? James, since you were going to type in there, you want to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Van Gelder bus system is going to be your best bet. It takes you directly, as Angie mentioned and as Shannon has mentioned, it takes you from Beloit, like 5 minutes from campus. It'll take you down to O'Hare in Chicago, which will then allow you to take the blue line into the city, and you'll be able to be in Chicago if you wanted to go down for a weekend. It's about $60 round trip. The more, if you were decided that you wanted to buy, you know, 5 trips, so 1 a month, that you're going to go down to Chicago, it's cheaper as you buy more trips, just because you get a discount the more you get. Another thing is a friend a local. There are a ton of Beloit College students from the Chicagoland area. That's how I got into the city. I didn't want to pay tolls when I drove my car, so I found a friend who had an iPass. And because so many of our students do come from Chicago or Milwaukee or Madison, they oftentimes return home. That's a good way to go down into the city. Beloit College is a small, close-knit community, so you'll just be able to kind of reach out into the ether of your campus community and say, hey, is anyone heading to Chicago for this weekend? Oftentimes someone's going to say yes, and then you'll be able to arrange transportation with them, even if they're not necessarily like your best friend. It's a close-knit community. You'll find somebody to be able to help you out. And so that's, of course, another option. So very easy to get in and out of Chicago. Very affordable if you decide to take the bus, super safe, super reliable. It's what we would recommend if you don't have anybody. And of course, traveling with your fellow students is going to be very safe as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, that is the end of our session. Thank you all for being here. You have wonderful questions, but remember that if you have a question after this session, if in 2 days you're like, "Ooh, I wish I would have asked that," you can always email us and we are more than happy to answer any questions, or if we can't answer them, find the resources for you. So in the chat is my email, orientation@beloit.edu. Shannon's is in there, and I'm sure everyone probably has James's because that's who you've been working with so closely as you're coming to Beloit. Thank you so much for participating. After this at 9, there's going to be an orientation leader. Thanks so much, James. There's going to be an orientation leader session with some games and some prizes. So feel free to join us and get to know your classmates. We highly encourage you to attend that session, and that starts in about 7 minutes. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day, everyone.